Did you get smoked in NFL Week 1? Well, good news. We've got one more game today, $1 million to first place on DraftKings. It is showdown time, Monday Night Football, Bills Jets. Of course, I am already starting the process here. We got the NFL Showdown, $150K huddle, $5 entry fee. Of course, today I'm going to build lineups 3 ways. So much like a chef, I'll prepare one hand-built delicacy. I'll prepare an optimizer delicacy right after that using stochastic projections and Fantasy Cruncher. And number 3, we will run the Sims on Stochastic to see who is looking the best according to the computers out there, of course, to talk about the players that we need to play, which will come up and then make us feel gross, but that's what simulations are good for. Let's check it out and let's start it. We got Buffalo 23.5 implied points, Jets 21.5 implied points. So to start things off, I'll give you guys my overview on the game. 2 good defenses. The Jets last year were a team that shut down pretty much everything that they were going up against. That includes the run. That includes deep passes. They were very tough against both those things in really noteworthy ways. Last year, a negative 0.11 EPA per dropback for the Jets defense, negative 0.13 EPA per pass, negative 0.06 EPA per rush. And then downfield, which is where the EPA numbers get the highest. That's where you gain your most expected points, is by targeting downfield. 20-plus yard throws. They were negative 0.42 EPA per target on there. So really tough numbers going against the Jets D. They also incredibly good at zone defense, negative 0.2 EPA per target going against zone. So that is something that theoretically could impact a player like Stephon Diggs, could also impact, honestly, pretty much everybody on the Bills. Had some success against zone last year, something to keep in mind. They are a team overall, it's better against man defense, but I do think this could be one that just gets ugly. Weather too in New York. Let's keep an eye on that one. Was not a great day yesterday for any part of New York, but certainly the Giants and the Cowboys, but in particular the Giants, really affected by the rainfall. I don't think it's going to be quite that bad today, but you never know at this point. I'm doing the stream at 11:30, so we'll see how it goes later on in the day. But let's try to build this lineup out here. So there we go. Wondering how the Sims went yesterday. People have some questions, so let's hit some chats real fast here. Then we'll hop into the huddle here. Congrats on the win yesterday. Copper Price in the chat, seen him above. He is going to Miami as one of the guys who took down the championship tournaments there that are going on an underdog. Shout out to Copper Prices. Our guy Connor, appreciate him for being here as a winner who is going to be competing for that crown and underdog. And how did DFS go from yesterday? It was a slightly less than break-even day. Felt like the lineups I had were pretty good. Had too much Jamal Williams. I think the Sims were really force-feeding me a lot of him. Basically, what Sims were showing me yesterday. And again, I think they're a lot of fun. I think they're great, but still part of this process for me with the Sims is going to be learning how to make them do what I want them to do a little bit more instead of just fully taking my hand off the wheel. But there was a lot of the Commanders D, a lot of Tyreek. That went great. A lot of Jamal Williams that did not go great. A lot of Bijan, that was okay. But I think with the projections getting stronger as we go, that's where the simulations will really provide value. Smaller slates as well. Had a friend who did the Sims for the first time yesterday, finished 5th in one of the tournaments in the afternoon slate. So I think smaller slates, stuff where there's just less guesswork involved, are going to be things where the Sims are going to do really well for you. So that's why I'm hoping with Showdown it is going to help us out here. But let's try to build the lineup. So let's get through it. So I think the first guy I would start with here, and he's going to be a chalky captain, extremely high price tag. I find it hard to believe that Josh Allen won't be the highest scorer in this game. You could definitely talk me into going some other ways. Obviously, Gabe Davis can always break a big play. Obviously, Stephon Diggs can always break a big play. But if we're starting out here with a hand build, I do think Josh Allen, the rushing upside, the Jets, the one weakness they have is going to be going against QB rushes. 0.45 EPA per rush allowed, which would be towards the bottom half of the league. As comparison point, the Bills last year gave up 0 points of EPA per rush. So they were basically holding the fort every time a QB ran, whereas the Jets are allowing you to do a little bit more. As we saw with my pal Anthony Richardson yesterday, that does pay off sometimes. And these guys having a little more efficacy when they are running the ball. So I think Allen's a good play. Obviously, again, captain's going to be chalky, but I do think having him in there makes some amount of sense. Let's see how else we can do this. If you are putting Josh Allen at captain, theoretically, you don't have to stack as much, but he's a rushing QB, but I do think getting some stacks in there with him makes sense. Diggs might have a tough time. You always want to bet on talent against tough defenses. The best example I could think of is last year, which didn't quite come true yesterday, where they fed Jacoby Myers a lot more, having a vessel to go away from Devontae Adams. But last year, Devontae Adams was going up against Patrick Surtain. Nobody wanted to play Devontae Adams because Patrick Surtain had shut down everybody in man-to-man defense over the course of last season. And what ends up happening out there, Devontae Adams breaks a few big plays, ends up being a guy who's much more talented than the shutdown corner. And that ends up being something that ends up paying big dividends. So I don't think you need to fade Diggs necessarily, but I do think he's not a player we have to go to. I actually might go with Gabe Davis here. So I think a Gabe Davis build. The Jets last year, certainly a team that was really good against both playing out wide and the slot. So not something that's going to benefit too much Gabe Davis. But I think the volatility of Gabe Davis, the attention that Diggs is going to draw in, I'm willing to go Gabe Davis for this hand build, single entry thing, try to get leverage in some of the chalk, especially since we are playing a chalky captain. So that's how we're going to do that. I'm also going to add in another tight end play. So I think Dalton Kincaid, I'm actually curious to see how his ownership is going to look. We will look at the ownership numbers on Stochastic in a minute before we do the optimizing as well. But I do think for a guy like Dalton Kincaid, maybe a little bit too much steam as a rookie coming in, a little bit of a pedigree. Certainly the Bills fans, we know our pal Liam, the BBM2 winner, is a guy that's been exalting him. I also love Dalton Kincaid, but if he's going to be chalky, I would rather take Dawson Knox, and I'm not entirely sure how the field's going to play this one. Not a bad DVP for Dawson Knox. Kincaid's targets are going to mostly come out of the slot. And again, the Jets did defend the slot pretty well last year, negative 0.05 EPA per target to the slot compared to a 0.2 EPA per target to tight ends. So I'm actually going to go with Dawson Knox here. So we have our double stack going. We don't have to necessarily add more players in. Let's go to the Jets side. Who would be the Jet that stands out the most? Playing out wide, the Bills give up a 0.5 EPA per target. Playing against the slot, 0.12 EPA per target. Garrett Wilson, obviously going to be the guy we expect to get the most volume, but we do know that Aaron Rodgers has his safety blankies now in tow. He's got Allen Lazard. He's got Randall Cobb. Is Cobb a sneaky play here? Cobb might be a sneaky play. I'm going to put in Wilson for now, and let's see what we can do with Wilson in this lineup. So kickers, I think, are kind of interesting here because we do expect these defenses to be fairly successful. I think it's certainly possible that you could see the kickers make a lineup. Again, tight defensive games tend to correlate better with kickers. The kicker that I would expect to be able to move the ball downfield more, but not score as many points, I think would be Greg Zuerlein. And I'm not saying that the Jets are going to move the ball better than the Bills, but I think they're going to be able to move the ball to some extent, unless they get completely smoked, which I think is kind of in the range of outcomes. But the Vegas totals aren't saying that. I think Greg Zuerlein is a guy who can kick some field goals and be a player who potentially makes this lineup work. That said, he has to outscore all the position guys, which can be tough for a kicker. So basically, we need to see the Jets have success and also just get stonewalled enough that Zuerlein has his opportunities. So I'm going to go with Zuerlein. Who else is going to get the Jets to move downfield to get Zuerlein into position? We have Garrett Wilson. Do we need another Jet? And if so, Dalvin Cook, a little too expensive. This is one time where you could talk me into Dalvin Cook. He's a little too pricey. Breece Hall, a little bit too expensive. Man, let's go. All right, let's take Garrett Wilson out, because he is a guy that theoretically we can get leverage against, whereas the running backs we can't quite get leverage against. I think it's going to be a Hall and Cook show. I don't think Abani Kanda is going to matter. I don't think Michael Carter is going to matter too much. I think Dalvin Cook's going to be more trusted in the pass game. I did see that he had one of the highest probability bets on Probably. Of course, Probably.com, my startup. Check it out. We're putting out some content, a lot of fun, learning how to make TikToks. But Dalvin Cook, I think, had a projection of a 70% chance of getting over 2.5 receptions in this game. So theoretically, the markets are saying he'll be involved enough. I do think he is going to be a safety blanket. I do think Breece Hall's more talented, but in the pass game, I kind of can feel them going to Cook more because Aaron Rodgers is, I think, going to have that trust a little bit more. So let's put Cook in, and then let's see what else we can get. We could leave some money on the table, go to Allen Lazard. We could also theoretically continue to bet on the Bills and go to James Cook. So we could have two Cooks, too many Cooks. I don't know, but I think this is the build. It's Cook or Lazard. Chat, you tell me. I know I'm trying to burn through, but let's go. And for Circle Anomalies, we'll look at this in a moment here on Stochastic. James Cook or Allen Lazard. You guys make the choice here. I'm going to submit this lineup. I think I'm keeping in Dalvin. I'm keeping in Zuerlein. But you guys pick Lazard or James Cook. I'll give you guys a second here. I think my lean would be James, just because I think the Bills will have more success. Yeah, okay. We're saying Jimmy Cooks, James Cook. Lazard feels uglier, which I do think has some appeal, but I think we're getting different enough here by omitting Diggs, by omitting Rodgers, by omitting Breece Hall. So this is going to be my final hand-built team. We'll see how it does. Hand-built teams, by the way, getting crushed by the sim teams that I've built so far. So you can only know ball so much, I guess. You can only know ball so much. The final team here that I hand-built: Josh Allen, Gabe Davis, Dawson Knox, Dalvin Cook, Greg Zuerlein, and James Cook. So we got both brothers in here. Of course, the Cook brothers, not referring to them as brothers. But let's look at the ownership projections. And also, I forgot to keep up the Actual projections here, of course, I use stochastic data. I would recommend it for yourself. For my final lineups tonight, I will blend the stochastic data with ETR's data, but that stuff's not available right now. So let's pull up the projections for show. Nope, that's the wrong one. Of course, I pulled up the wrong one because I'm a buffoon. I don't think we need preseason projections unless we want to go back in time, which could be fun. Seems like people did well. Premium data, projections. This is why I open this stuff in advance, guys. It gets complicated to click it on the stream. All right, top projected players. Let's look at it. Again, this is stochastic data. Pay for it yourself if you can. I think they still have some promo codes going with kickoff 15, I believe. So here you can see Josh Allen, top projected player by over 3 points. So it certainly makes sense that I would get there. I guess there's a world where you could play Diggs without Josh Allen as a way to try to capture the pass game production. And I guess eschew the fact that Allen's probably going to have to run for some tough yards. If you were to take Allen's rushing upside away, I think you would then go to a Diggs James Cook build. And that would be one way to say that, hey, Josh Allen's not running every play, instead checking down a little bit more. I think that could make sense. The value, guys, though, let's see it. Tyler Conklin, torn ACL. Wait, Tyler Conklin's a Jet, isn't he? Or did he go to the Browns? I missed that one. But a lot of bad injuries. J.K. Dobbins injury I was talking about in the chat before this one. That one crushed me. Really hard to see a guy's ceiling materialize right in front of your eyes and then torn Achilles, and that's it. Deontay Hardy's value, though, tremendous, coming up a lot here at $200, 10.7 value. Got to think Deontay Hardy's going to be the chalk play. As we saw on Thursday Night Showdown, though, if Hardy's coming up as the projected play, as the optimizer play, and again, we're going to look at the optimizer in a moment here, I do think that means then that Trent Sherfield gains an appeal. Maybe Khalil Shakir, who still has a 4.5 projection on him from Stochastic. Maybe he's a player you take instead. But if the optimizer is going to give you Hardy, I think trying to pivot one of these more fungible parts, these less sturdy parts, I think that's the way to do that. So Hardy going to be the obvious value, but I think Sherfield, if he's active, can be in the mix. Shakir, if he's active, can be in the mix. I think that's how you get that direct leverage there. Jack Conklin. Okay, good. I was like, did I fucking miss the trade entirely of a tight end? Admittedly, I didn't like very much, but still. So anyway, you can see all the values here. Plays guys, of course, still Josh Allen, a good value. Diggs, still a good value relative to slate. And Greg Zuerlein, a good value, but not quite as much as Tyler Bass if you want to play a kicker. And the Bills defense, better value play than the Jets defense, but not by too wide of a margin. Let's go to the ownership projections, though, and let's see what they're going to give us. And also, let me make sure to copy these so I can put them into Fantasy Cruncher when we go back here. Boy, is it just like reset everything? I think that must be it. I got to make sure to do all this stuff in advance next time. My apologies. All right, FC NFL, DraftKings Showdown. All right, we'll get that going. Ownership stuff. Highest owned player, not a surprise here, Josh Allen with 74% projected ownership by Stochastic across everything. Also, he's the top projected captain play at 16%. So again, if you are going to put him at captain, you need to get different by either forcing in maybe 3 pass catchers with him or just, 3 teammates. It doesn't have to be just pass catchers, but 3 teammates with him, I think would be one way to chop that ownership. You could also, I guess, put him in utility, but that's going to put you with more of a pack of ownership. So I kind of think playing the upside of captain does make sense for whatever Josh Allen lineups you want to build. But certainly he is a guy, it's hard to imagine him not making every lineup, would be how I feel about it. So something to keep in mind there, barring injury, of course. Stephon Diggs, number 2 at 60%. He's also going to be a highly owned captain. Again, really tough matchup for Diggs. I believe in the talent. He's one of the best EPA per target guys. I swear by him. He is my guy in best ball on both DraftKings and Underdog. And I think I even got a little bit on Drafters. So, very much love Diggs, but if there were a day to fade him, much like Saquon Barkley yesterday, going against the Cowboys team that looked really good defensively and really doesn't allow a lot from any running back, let alone Saquon, who's about as mid as can be, Diggs is really good. So I think it's not quite the same play where he can beat any team. That said, I think erring on the side of caution a little bit more with Diggs makes sense. Still going to play him with the field at captain, I think, but it feels a little bit like walking into a buzzsaw. Aaron Rodgers is one play that he was not good last year, and I think we do need to kind of say that out loud. Last year, negative 0.1 EPA per dropback, negative 0.3 EPA per run, negative 0.1 EPA per pass. Maybe that's the fraying with him and Matt LaFleur. Maybe that's him wanting to get out of Dodge. Maybe that's, I don't know, a million things you could point to that went wrong with Aaron Rodgers last year. In this particular spot, though, I think that Rodgers is one player that I'm a little more willing to fade. I don't expect him to add the rushing value. I don't expect him to necessarily crush through the pass game. I see a lot of pressure coming his way. I see a lot of that stupid fucking face he makes whenever pressure comes his way. I think in the blame game, I think it's all on the table for Aaron Rodgers. So if we're going to look at these top 5 owned guys, the one that I like the least is going to be Aaron Rodgers. Not good Rodgers is still better than 50% of other starters. in terms of keeping the train running on time, I suppose, but he's not actively creating value for anybody. And I don't want to, I don't want to push back on Copper Prices the day after he won a ticket to go to the Underdog Fantasy Finals. So we did do it on the back of AR and Michael Pittman, which brings me a lot of joy. I just don't think Rodgers has a lot of juice left. And I think the Bills matchup in particular is going to highlight his lack of juice. Doesn't mean he can't get him through the year. Doesn't mean that he's not going to have good weeks against, Miami or any of the other teams out there he's going to see. New England's also going to be pretty tough for him. I just think Rodgers, to me, I would be less inclined to play him than more inclined, personally. Some of the low-owned guys, perhaps you want to mix in a little bit. Deontay Hardy projecting to be low-owned. But again, if you are putting Deontay Hardy in a lineup, you're likely playing against a lot of optimizer bros. So something to keep in mind out there. Latavius Murray, low-owned. He certainly can be a guy who is a lever against Damian Harris, though it did seem like Damian Harris did win that goal line, that running back 2 role. Potentially goal line, but definitely running back 2. Trent Sherfield, as I talked about, as a pivot to Hardy, I think has some appeal. He's been a guy that Josh Allen targeted frequently throughout the preseason. I think it's kind of interesting. I think a mix of these guys works, and it does look like they are projecting Dalton Kincaid for just 11.5% ownership, 0.3% ownership at captain. So if you are a guy like Liam, if you are somebody who really stands Dalton Kincaid and thinks that he's going to touch the field and be a rock star, nobody's going to be there. So not so sure about that one, but I think if it's going to be a low-owned play, I don't hate it. Let's go over to the Fantasy Cruncher Optimizer, and let's get it going on here. And again, next time I do a showdown video, I'll make sure to click all this stuff in advance because I thought it was ready to go, and apparently I was wrong. All right. Select all of them. We're going to run 25 lineups here and try to read what we can here from the optimizer to see what the rates are going to be coming for people building through Fantasy Cruncher, as well as what it thinks the optimal constructions are, and then we can find ways perhaps to get different. So let's use my projections, which are the stochastic projections, and our 25 lineups are already built. So you are seeing Stephon Diggs in 88% as utility. You're seeing Aaron Rodgers in every lineup as utility. 80% it looks like. Randall Cobb coming up in 80%, which is a bit of a surprise. When have we seen a veteran QB traded to a Nathaniel Hackett-led offense and fail? That's true. I mean, you could say if you want to take Copper Price's side a little bit more, or take the Aaron Rodgers side a little bit more, certainly going to be a little more knowledge of what is Aaron Rodgers' strengths and weaknesses than Hackett had last year coming into Russ world. Hackett, of course, did work with Rodgers so long on the Packers team that definitely something where he's going to be, I think, a little more of a sycophant, a little bit of a guy who plays more to what Rodgers wants to see. So I think, not quite apples to apples with him and Russ, but I do think certainly some whiffs of things that are similar. Captains here, you're seeing a lot of Josh Allen is at captain, so you really do need to get different. I think we got different enough in that single entry hand build we did, but something to keep in mind. Again, more pass catchers with Allen, more low-owned pass catchers with Allen in particular, like maybe you just eschew Diggs and Davis, and you go Sherfield and Hardy and Kincaid, and that's like the way that Allen earns his captain spot is a little bit of rushing and creating the pass game production through those guys. I think there's some ways to chop it up that'll be unique, but it does seem like what's worth pointing out here. That is a lot of Josh Allen as captain. Also, a lot of Randall Cobb at captain. A lot of Stephon Diggs at captain. Cobb at captain, though, is a shocker. I get why it would be the case. On the year last year, again, the Bills were pretty good against the slot, but not great. 0.12 EPA per target defending the slot. Cobb is a bit of a safety blanket. I just don't think he's that good, but I could see why that would be a play that makes sense. So gross to see him come up that much at captain. The overall team constructions, though, we are seeing a majority here going to 4-2 builds. So 4 for the Bills in particular are going to be very popular. Good amount of 3-3s. As we talk about a lot here, 3-3s tend to be kind of a half measure, kind of a way that people like to build teams, but ultimately through the course of a showdown, as we saw last night, it ends up being a 5-1 build. A lot of these times it ends up being a 5-1 or a 4-2. But we are seeing 4-2s easily represented. And again, the 3-3s here, you could honestly make the case to just not play very many 3-3s overall. Combos, nothing too interesting in the combos. Same thing here. So that's kind of the key takeaway. Anybody who's not owned at all that I think should be owned. So it looks like Hardy's actually not coming up. So he's a nice value play, but not coming up in an optimizer. So Hardy might be a little more live for everybody than I initially thought. Because if he's not even going to be in here, I think that Hardy, Sherfield, and to a lesser extent, Shakir, I think are all kind of guys that make sense as a way to cut that Allen ownership. So we'll talk about the 3 takeaways at the end, but I think that is going to be part of the 3 takeaways. Let's generate some sim lineups, though. And of course, guys, while these sim, let me generate them now. 10,000 lineups, of course, on a Stochastic Sims product. while I pull this one up here, because I forget to whore amidst trying to get through this video in a timely fashion, subscribe down below, please. Splash play on the march to 3K subs. Of course, really please see the feedback on the Friday video that I'm calling the Fantasy Football Gauntlet, where I'm doing all these hand-built teams, optimizer teams, sim teams, underdog battle royale, pick them. That meant a lot to me, so thank you guys for watching that one. Of course, we'll run that back. And tomorrow, I think what we're going to do is a superior players video, where I'm going to talk about the guys in the week 1 data that I think are standing out. Obviously going to be small sample size stuff, but that's going to be the goal. Tomorrow will be our recap, hopefully a little more casual show. And I'll try to put something together for that. You can see our lineups here. Again, the pool exposure going to favor Josh Allen, going to favor guys like Aaron Rodgers. So we will see what they do. I'm not going to tinker with the boost ownership here, though. If you wanted to, let's say, get more Josh Allen in your pool of 10,000 lineups, this is what it's going to sim off of. You could boost the ownership here for Josh Allen, then you would rerun it. So let's just show you how that goes in case you are learning how to do the sim process on Stochastic or other sites. Let's see. All right, loading here. Again, it goes fast. It doesn't go fast enough in the process of doing a show live, but it does go fast. So you can see here, get a little bit more Josh Allen. We are still under the field. That's fine. I'm just showing you guys how this works. So then we simulate the lineups that moves them over here. This is a slate today where I believe it's 40% of the prize pool going to first. So we're going to go with 30% for that one. If you wanted to upload custom projections, what you would do is download the template and then somehow make it so the names match up with whatever projections you're using. So you can either paste over your own, you can use ETRs, whatever you want to do. This is where you do that stuff. And we're going to run this simulation. We're not going to use the custom projections. And let's see what it gives us. So what it does, again, 10,000 lineups that we just made. It's going to run those 10,000 lineups against each other 40,000 times. And then we'll see what the results are. And for, I think, showdowns in particular, I do think the sims are going to really highlight some stuff. And then you can isolate it and figure out how you want to get different. And I will point to, again, last week, it was a lot of Noah Gray. What ends up winning? Blake Bell. A lot of, who was it? Josh Reynolds not coming in. You're seeing a lot of Khalif Raymond. Then he pivots to Josh Reynolds. So that's how I think the best way to view this is going to be. You can see here some of the top projected lineups. I'm not blocking them. Diggs, Aaron Rodgers, Alan Lazard, Greg Zuerlein, Josh Allen, Khalil Shakir. That is currently the highest ROI with no projected dupes. So something to keep in mind here, where you're still getting Allen, still getting Rodgers, getting the chalky QBs, but you are getting some low-owned pass catcher with them. And then also Diggs at captain and Zuerlein as well to cut the ownership down. Let's highlight the top 300 so we can see what the exposures look like. Exposure for Josh Allen at flex is 30%. So he's going to be a lot of him. What is he at captain? 23%. So basically about 85% Josh Allen overall in these lineups. Also, it is telling us to get some leverage with him at captain and also at flex. So it thinks that Josh Allen is underowned at both spots for the captain and for the utility spot. Aaron Rodgers, it also does seem like they're pushing us to get more than the field at the flex. Hopefully not more at captain. And more at captain. So the sims disagree with me. God, I really... So the sims yesterday did push me on Saquon Barkley, and I let the sims push me on Saquon Barkley. I'm going to let it push me on Aaron Rodgers a little bit still. I get why he would be a part of this. The correlation probably with him and his receivers helps put him in some lineups, as well as just the general floor of QB play. But I don't love getting this much Aaron Rodgers. So what you would do then, if you did want less Aaron Rodgers as I do, is you would drop his ROI. Let's say drop it 25%. And then what it's going to do is when you go back here, so you sort down, sort it again, and now you can see what happens with all of our lineups here that we have decreased the ROI on Aaron Rodgers for. So it just drops it by 25% in this column. And as a result, we get less Aaron Rodgers, but not a crazy amount more of Aaron Rodgers. Like, we're still over the field at captain. I probably need to drop his captain ROI too. This is the point of all this stuff. I think this is what we're seeing overall. Player ROI, which let's highlight here. So really thinks that Khalil Shakir is going to win you some money. Also seems like it thinks that Randall Cobb at captain has some big upside, which is kind of interesting because I guess Cobb at captain, his price is $3,400. Cobb at captain probably just allows you to jam in all the studs. So I guess you got to play some Randall Cobb at captain. This is not great. The sims project for weather issues through the prism of over-unders, yes, but not through the actual, like it's not saying, oh, it rains more, so decrease production by 10%. So Bills defense seemed like a thin play to you. Rodgers is traditionally someone who turns the ball over, maybe sacks, usually pretty good at avoiding them too. I'm not, what is the Bills price tag offhand? I don't know where they're, hold on. No, I don't want to submit it again. I just want to see the price tag. Let's see. Bills D, 3,800. It's okay. It's an okay price tag. I might be more inclined to play the Jets D personally, because I think Aaron Rodgers can certainly turn one over. Excuse me, Josh Allen can turn one over against the Jets D that, again, is really good downfield and was really good last year, but kind of unlucky in interceptions. So I think I'd prefer the Jets D, but I don't think you need to play both Ds. I think people will see a low total here and be more inclined to play the defenses they might normally be. So I don't think the Ds are a must. Obviously, don't hate them or anything, but I don't think they're a must. So yeah, you can see here again, just these are ROI guys. If Shakir's projection moves, it's going to make him less of a simulated ROI guy. Certainly possible that Hardy could become more of one, but I think Shakir would be the sim play and the optimizer play. So I guess that does just make Hardy getting some gimmick plays a little more appealing. I kind of think, though, that Deontay Hardy gimmicky behind the line, low ADOT kind of touches take away from James Cook. So maybe you don't play Hardy and Cook together. That's a tough one. So the 3 takeaways for this video are going to be difficult. I guess anything that you guys want me to show you here before I jump off and do my quick exit, because again, these videos, I wanted to do fucking 15 to 20 minutes and I can't help myself from doing a half hour straight. If you guys have anything else you want to see on the Sims tool, let me know. Here's a good cash game lineup. Let's do that. This is what I did yesterday in my friends league that I talked about before. If you want to just play a lineup that's going to cash, this one is probably the one that'd be the best one to do. It cashes the most amidst these 40,000 simulations. So Josh Allen at captain, Aaron Rodgers, Greg Zuerlein, Randall Cobb, Stephon Diggs, Tyler Bass. So both kickers make this cashy lineup, this kind of high floor, low ceiling lineup. But I think that's a good one to play if you are a sicko who likes to play Showdown Cash. Check that out. All right, so my 3 takeaways. I need to put up like a thing here. It says 3 takeaways, and I do them. My 3 takeaways would be, number 1, if you are putting Josh Allen at captain, go with some different receivers, either alongside Stephon Diggs or without Stephon Diggs. So you got to have one, I think, of Shakir, of Hardy, of Sherfield, of Dawson Knox, maybe. Let me just check Knox's ownership real fast. And Knox is low enough. You got to decrease that ownership product if you are putting Josh Allen at captain. So put in somebody that's going to benefit from him, that cuts the parlay with Josh Allen, but still gives you the upside you need there relative to finishing atop a tournament. So that's the first takeaway. Get less chalky if you're putting Allen at captain. Take some of his lower owned pass catchers. Number 2 would be, I just think you got to take less Aaron Rodgers. I know what the Sims are saying. I don't want to go against the Sims. I would take less Aaron Rodgers. I think that at best for him, he is a vessel for other players doing things and theoretically beating him out with a combination of PPR points, maybe rushing touchdowns. But I think Dalvin Cook, to me, kind of fits both those, where he gets some checkdowns. That gives him easy PPR points. He runs in a touchdown, maybe 2. That gives him some upside. And Cook, for whatever it's worth, one of the best plays he had last year was against Buffalo. That is the small sample size stuff. But I do think maybe he's got the skeleton key for Buffalo. Probably not, but that's my guy who knows ball take, where it's not really a good take. Number 3, I think you want to favor the kickers a little bit more. The ugly plays here that stand out would be the kickers and Randall Cobb. Randall Cobb, let's see what the ownership is when you get closer to lock. If Cobb becomes a chalk play, I don't know that I want to be there. But he's, again, another low ADOT guy. Aaron Rodgers doesn't press the ball downfield, or at least hasn't historically. I think it's going to be tough for him to find Garrett Wilson, even though I did play him in that single entry, or was going to play him in that single entry. I do think a Cobb kind of fits where Rodgers is as a player more, where it's just attacking closer to the line, guys who can get open there. So I think Cobb and Greg Zuerlein, to me, look like Jets that I would want to get some exposure to. And I guess we're playing Randall Cobb at captain. Don't forget, it's Gabe Davis contract year, and the contract year is undefeated. He's going to break his usual big plays. I'm not surprised by that. But, man, this is the defense where, like, if he breaks it, it's going to be he breaks 1 or 2. But, like, he's going to have a hard time. Like, this is going to be a really tough matchup to expect him to do that. So, contrarian maybe. The ownership on Gabe seems like it'll be high enough that I don't know he's going to be, like, some secret here. Gabe is one of the higher owned plays. The only 30% ownership. Maybe Gabe at captain. I don't know. I don't want to I want to diminish the 3 takeaways here. This is a weird slate, though. I got to say, this is a tough showdown one. So check it out today. Of course, if you are doing any pick'ems or anything, do it on Underdog. Use that promo code SPLASH. Double your deposit up to $100. Get a mystery pick'em if you're new. Sign up on there and use the promo code SPLASH. So check that out. But go play an Underdog for some stuff here. They've been having a lot of fun. And again, guys like Copper Price is dominating on there, just using kind of best ball theory for some of these in-season tournaments. So you guys can probably get some okay results if you do grind away at it and show some effort there. Of course, follow me at Chris Spags. Follow the show at Splash Play Pod. Go check out probably.com as well. We certainly have some fun stuff coming up on that site today. Some updates. Check that out over the weekend that'll be going. So if you want to get in good bets, check it out there. Find out what the best price is and figure out if you should bet it on your local sports book or not. But that's it for me today. So thank you guys for hanging out. Tomorrow we'll have a little more of a leisurely show. We'll go over my superior players and great spots and talk about the guys that stood out from week 1 and should stand out heading into week 2. And let's do that tomorrow, 11 a.m. every day here, Splash Play, Monday to Friday, 11 a.m. That's going to be the goal moving forward. So let's keep it moving here, guys. Good luck to you tonight and bet responsibly. See you guys again soon. Enjoy your days and good luck. Bye.